In the past 4 years, I have worked with over 150 teens struggling with FND and their parents, and I have learned 9 things about teen FND. But before I dive into it, the biggest lesson is this. If you don't know what you're dealing with, it's going to be really hard for you to get out of this endless treadmill because obviously you don't know what you're dealing with, and you will continue to live in this frustration and agony and hopeless and sometimes helplessness if you don't know what you're dealing with. However, the flip side is if you know what you're dealing with, then there's hope because there is a solution. So let's dive in. Hi, my name is Dr. Lee. I'm a pediatric health psychologist and the founder of Teen FND Academy, which is an online group coaching program to help teens struggling with FND and their parents resolve the condition. So just to give you context, I have over 25 years of experience working in the mental health field, and the majority of those years are spent on and in a hospital setting. And for the past 4 years, since I started working in my private practice, basically since the pandemic, I became a teen FND specialist, including non-epileptic seizures and chronic pain, various parts of the body. And so here are the 9 lessons that I have learned so far. So I want to share everything with you. Lesson number 1, no one knows what FND is. That includes teens, parents, schools, and even doctors. So what exactly is FND? I have tons of videos talking about what FND is in details on this channel, but just to give a brief summary, FND is an umbrella term to describe this cross-wired network communication problem between your child's brain and body, even though your child's brain and body are structurally and physiologically a-okay. It is an oddly very common diagnosis you would get in neurology clinic, even though you have never seen it before, you don't know anyone who has it, or you have absolutely no idea what is going on. FND is a biopsychosocial phenomenon, so it's not just one thing that is causing the problem. So it's not just anxiety or stress or trauma, which again, teen FND is different from adult FND. With teen FND, your chance of recovering completely from FND is very, very high. And I don't want to say like if you're adult, like once you turn age 18, you're like, oh my gosh, there's no way you're going to get better. That's not the case. However, you teens have much, much higher chance of getting better completely, according to statistics. So number 1, nobody knows what FND is. And because of that, lesson number 2, everybody kind of does the wrong thing. So let me walk you through. Teens, if you're watching this video, first of all, I'm so glad you found my channel. And if you don't know what FND is, you are likely to be thinking like this. Things are out of control. You might feel hopeless and you might have this victim mindset. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but naturally that's a reaction from the condition that you're dealing with if you don't know what you're dealing with, right? And also you're falling behind in school and life in general, and the cycle continues. So pretty much miserable, right? And parents, you keep tracking of teens' symptoms, following parent instinct, usually coming from you have to take care of your baby kind of syndrome, right? And taking the teen to one too many doctors for the 756 opinions, right? So that is usually what you end up doing, because you don't know what you're dealing with. In school, I don't know what else to say it, but their main concern is their own liability. So they panic, they don't know what to do, so they would call 911 or send the kid home or call parents or accusing the kid for faking or worry more about other students getting traumatized or wanting the kid to change to hybrid or online or homeschool or an alternative school because they don't know what to do with the student who has FND. Doctors, they might be thinking, oh, it's one of those, again, there's nothing wrong with this kid and I'm scratching my head because I don't really know what's going on, and this family needs to see a therapist because it's all psychological, because I can't see anything biological or physiological or structural. But hey, it's good news, the kid doesn't have a cancer or brain tumor kind of thing. So everybody is kind of doing the wrong thing, right? And I'm obviously exaggerating. There are some, of course, teens who are very familiar with FND, parents, school, doctors, kind of same thing. But for the majority of the time, they have absolutely no idea what this is. Lesson number 3, every teen's FND will look different. That is very true from my own experience working with 150 plus teens who have FND. And the thing about FND is the symptoms actually change over time. You know, it's never kind of like one thing only, right? So here's also the deal that maybe your child gets better once the school's over, And then families mistakenly thinking, oh my gosh, it's done, it's over. Okay, don't do anything. Just enjoy the summer with all kinds of justifications, like my kid or we as family didn't have any life during the school year because of this FND. So we should enjoy this normal summer. Or we're so glad this is over. And what was it really? But oh my gosh, okay, out of sight, out of mind. We're not going to be doing anything. Well, we shouldn't even really think about it, because look at our kid now. She's so happy, right? And then the school starts. Guess what? It comes back, and now with vengeance. And now it's worse than ever with new symptoms, or maybe it's better than what it used to be, but not really out of the woods yet, So now you're scrambling with, oh my gosh, what do we do? What can we do? This is not good. We thought it was done, but it's coming back and we can't live like this again. And so we need to do anything and everything, that kind of thing. So like really reactive. So many different symptoms have, and there are so many different types of FND, right? And what they have in common are these three things, regardless of what the symptoms are within the FND. Number one, as I mentioned earlier, what is FND? FND is a biopsychosocial phenomenon. So that's one thing. No matter what your child's symptoms are, whether it's a functional seizures or Tourette symptoms, paralysis, pain, and brain fog, and anything like that, they're all biopsychosocial phenomenon. All right, that's one. Number two, you have to know the 3P factors. So if you think of the biopsychosocial factors as a what, the 3P's factors would be sort of like a how, Number one is the predisposing factor. So this is like what was kind of cooking in the oven for a long time before the FND sort of started to surface, right? Which leads to the second P, which is a precipitating factor. It's usually kind of triggers, So this is where parents and a teen might be thinking, oh, I had this illness, COVID, this virus, concussion, this thing happened, we moved, and there was just a huge thing happened in school, stuff like that. But whatever the case is, usually the triggering factor, the precipitating factor. And then the third P is a perpetuating factor. So what is keeping this fire of FND alive that may not be the reason why your child is having an FND in the first place? No matter what the symptoms are within the FND always has this 3Ps factor. So this is more like how it was started and how it's continuing to exist in your family's life, right? And then third one is it really all boils down to the dysregulation of the brain function and an autonomic nervous system. So FND is not really all in your head. What's in your child's head is the brain, okay? And then what's in your child's body is the autonomic nervous system. So when the brain and autonomic nervous system, they're all in this sort of dysfunctioning, in shambles, then FND sort of happens. So those are the three things that I have learned so far. So here's the deal. Stop hyper focusing on one symptom at a time and thinking they're all different or distinct. They're all boiled down to these three things: biopsychosocial, the 3Ps, and the dysregulation of brain and the nervous system. Number 4, which is the lesson I'm learning, FND doesn't necessarily get better on its own. Now, there is a thing called spontaneous recovery. Yes, it's a thing, okay? And then there's also the spontaneous relapse. It's also the thing too. And when it does, in my experience, it comes back with vengeance, all right? And then many teens who get this spontaneous recovery will get this spontaneous relapse. So unless you do something about it in the first place when they have it. And with FND, kind of like it's a cavity, or I don't know, like a cancer for that matter. Like just because your teen feels and looks better one day or 1 week doesn't necessarily mean it's done, right? So similar, to FND. I mean, FND is not like a deadly, life-threatening illness like cancer. However, just as debilitating. Your child's life is gone, quality wise. I mean, it's not the same, and this already. And on that note, recovery from FND is never ever linear. So it's not like that your child gets better every day, kind of thing. It is going to be roller coaster and choppy because a teen literally needs to retrain her brain and a nervous system in order for them to get better from FND. So it requires a bit of a training and a practice. That's why there is no single silver bullet or magic pill or the cure that fixes the FND very quickly. Lesson number 5, there is a clear point of divergence of who gets better versus who doesn't get better based on my experience. So I'm going to talk about who does not get better because it has been pretty clear, at least with my experience of working with over 150 teens with FND. Number 1, if you are not accepting the diagnosis of FND, that includes you, your teen, or other people around you, and you're obsessed with other things like there's gotta be concussion, there's gotta be POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, it's gotta be migraine, it's gotta be the vitamin deficiency, it's gotta be EDS, it's gotta be sensory processing disorder, it's gotta be anxiety, depression, trauma, iron deficiency, autoimmune disease, etc., etc., etc. These people are looking for one silver bullet. What that sort of like it kills them all, like if I deal with this one thing that is causing all of these things, then everything is going to get better, kind of thing. Or thinking one is more important than the other. I frequently come across with teens who have both FND and POD, for example, and somehow parents and teen are more obsessed with dealing with PODs because it's a legitimate, it's a real diagnosis, and it's easy, to treat, thinking that's going to also take care of FND. Well, they go hand in hand, but just because you deal with one doesn't necessarily mean the other is going to be automatically be better. So again, it kind of goes back to the first thing of what I was saying, the first lesson. Nobody really knows what FND is, right? So that's sort of like not accepting the diagnosis, and then they're thinking that one is going to cure everything else. The other one I see a lot who doesn't get better is this victim mindset, mostly for teens because they're feeling helpless. And again, it's not their fault, just so you know, but they're feeling helpless, not putting the work, but only wanting to get better. So it's kind of like, I'm an athlete and I want to win the national championship or the Olympics, but I don't want to practice because that's hard. So it's kind of same thing, like, yeah, I want to get better, but I don't want to put the work, right? And also, along with that sort of victim mindset, relying on external resources, almost like outsourcing, their ability to actually get better by relying on other things like assistive devices. I have videos talking about assistive devices and why that's not actually helpful to resolve from FND, but assistive devices like wheelchair, crutches, sling, service dog, other people, medical ID, anything and everything you can think of under the umbrella. Again, there's nothing wrong with the service dog itself. I would say get a pet, or emotional support assisted animal as a reward for getting better, right? Because unlike other things, living thing is really hard to sort of like titrate and get rid of. So that's why, these things are not necessarily helpful. However, why this is a problem, because eventually this becomes a part of who they are, and you start identifying yourself with, I am the person who has FND, which is permanent. Therefore, I need all of these other external assistive devices to make a living. Again, if that is what you want, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But are you actually doing something to resolve FND? Not necessarily. Okay. So this is the far, difference between the learn to live with it and then cope. And it's okay. This is who I am, right? Versus, nope, I am refusing to identify myself with this kind of, condition. Therefore, I have absolute right and I'll do anything and everything to get better, to get back to my life. Neither of them is any better or worse, right? Or good or bad. It's more about how is it working for you? So that's really it. Right? And then parents, it's the fixer mindset. I see this with almost all the parents, but hear me out. This is really about the FND is becoming their own problem, thinking what good parents should be doing. So there's a lot of should and must, and I have to take over, that kind of thing. And at the end of the day, they want to be good parents, right? So that's their focus. My challenge to a lot of parents that I work with are, yes, you want to be good parents, but do you also want to be effective parents in resolving FND? And almost everyone that I talk to who get better, they are on board with, yes, we want to be good parents and effective parents. So it's not one or the other. But this fixer mindset is a forget the effectiveness because we think we're doing a good thing because we're doing something. And if we're doing something, we're being productive, that means we're being helpful. That means we're being good parents, kind of thing. When you are actually running in circles, not going anywhere. The other one that I see who don't get better is people who are preoccupied with time. So when I say time, it's like this. I need to get better by a certain date because the graduation is just around the corner. Therefore, I need to get better. And it's really important to reduce a symptom in 3 minutes because XYZ is happening. So we need to focus on avoiding and then preventing and reducing these symptoms into as short minutes as possible in whatever timeline. Or it's been X months, since the symptoms started. So they're almost like a journal in accounting, on a clipboard, kind of thing. So again, what's wrong with it? Well, yes, it is very inconvenient if your child is having an FND episode in the middle of the test, for example, or when the homecoming is, happening this weekend or something like that, right? Yes, I get it that you feel frustrated and you feel kind of pressured that you need to get better by a certain time. I totally get that. It is not necessarily happening at the convenient time. So what's wrong with that? When people are so preoccupied with time, then they are expecting certain things to happen with or without the realistic timeline of actually what's going to happen. And so when you're running with this expectation of arbitrarily set timeline or just because of their convenience or whatever reasons, then you are almost guaranteed to feel frustrated and give up. So those are the things that I have seen who don't get better. Sort of like a characteristics, I guess, and then things that they do. So what's the other hand? Who gets better? These are the people who get better in 3 sort of like big categories. One is, well, 2, but 3 categories. One is understanding or at least accepting the diagnosis, and then they're ready to roll up their sleeves and whatever it takes. Not when it's convenient or when they have time. You would not get more time down the road. We all have the same time, 24 hours in a day. So it's not like that you're magically going to have time. And I hear this, oh yeah, we're busy with this sports activities, and so things are a little bit crazy, so maybe things are going to settle down in 2 months. Well, guess what? That 2 months you could have started working by making time, so then you are actually helping your teen get better in a faster timeline. Again, there's no timeline, but you know what I mean. The sooner you start the healing journey, the better the odds of you or teen getting better. So in my mind, what is more important than your child's health and life, right? So those are the people who put, you know what? No, this is a priority. We will make it happen. Those are the people who get better. And then second one, so this goes to both teens and the parents. That's why it's 2, 3, kind of thing. So both of them have this hero mindset. Now they're not born with it or they're coming with this hero mindset, but they're willing to work towards that hero mindset. So when I say a hero mindset, what does that mean? For teens, they know they have to do the work. And ironically, many teens with FND are actually, at least my experience, high achieving competitive individuals in many different areas. So they know the importance of hard work and good ethics. So those are the people who can channel their natural talent of, yes, I know it takes time and I know it takes effort and hard work. So I am going to work for it because getting my life back is so important. This is my priority. Those are the hero mindset who gets better. And also, even though things are not necessarily ideal or perfect, these are the teens who think, how can I make this work? Okay, I've got 10 million different things going on. So it's easy for me to say I don't have time, but how can I make this work? Because this is priority and I will make it happen. That is a hero mindset that I see in virtually every single teen who gets better. And for parents, same thing, the hero mindset. But for parents, it's more about they know they are humble enough to admit what they're doing or what they have been doing is not working. So they are coachable. And it's not their problem to solve because FND is happening in their teen's body, right? And so they are learning and then working really hard to make it work by backing off so they're not bombarding their teen with a bunch of questions related to FND and things like that. So they are at least coachable. Does that mean it's easy for them? No, they are still working really hard, but at least they know, yes, what we're doing is not working. So this is time to roll up our sleeves. And then even though whatever we're doing sounds counterintuitive, we're going to trust this process and then go through it. That is a hero mindset for parents. And those are the people, the families who inevitably get better. So that's lesson number 5. Like who gets better, who doesn't get better. Lesson number 6, with FND teen, I see this a lot, but isolation really kills. Here's the deal. No one is the same, right? And then no one else is having the thing that they're dealing with around them. Even if they do have people around them, it's not exactly the same, right? And so what that means is, is for teens who have FND, I hear this 1,000% at a time, more than 100%. Incredibly isolating, lonely, invalidated, feeling hopeless, that turns into helpless. So hopeless means like, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is going to get better. Helpless is, well, there's nothing I can do, so might as well live like this, kind of thing. Eventually they kind of get there. They're fighting for it, but there's so much they can do on their own. And parents, same thing, are like blind leading the blind, right? So it's like it's not better. Parents are no better either, right? And some teens are in a hospital-based rehab program. I've seen that too and heard. And then many of them tell me it was not really it, because they were the only ones who had FND in those programs, unless these people are going to a specific FND program, right? So essentially they're in the wrong crowd, right? Another example that I hear from time to time is that they're the only teens in a group of people with FND. So they got the FND part right, but they're the only age group teens in that group, all right? And then the rest of them were anywhere between the 50s and 70s. So if we're talking about developmental needs, talking about the vast difference between a 15-year-old with FND and 70-year-old with FND. Again, it's not like one is better than the other, but they're vastly different, right? And so yes, FND is a common denominator, and this is why I am so stickler about being a teen FND specialist, because I work with teens who have FND. Their developmental needs are not the same thing. So you have to feel like you belong to a community between FND and their age range, right? So again, this is where isolation really, really kills. And I have noticed in my private practice, I used to see only teens with FND on an individual basis in my private practice. And this has been like over 4 years, right? And I guess the good news is I've been helping them. They get better, But the bad news, semi-bad news that I've been hearing from them was, well, there's nobody else who has this, right? And then from them, they're it. From my perspective, oh my gosh, yeah, you're like one of those like 150 people that I see, right? So I was thinking, oh my gosh, what can I do? And I used to run group therapy in different, places, in hospital settings where I worked at. And so that's sort of how I came to create this online group coaching program for Teen FND, which is a Teen FND Academy. What I hear from the teens in that program, they are saying, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one on this planet who had this FND. And now look at this. I'm not the only one. And yes, same. Yes, I get it, right? Again, as I mentioned, everyone's symptom might be different, but they all have the same condition that nobody seems to understand or give a time of the day, right? And then these are the teens who immediately bond towards one common goal, which is to get better from FND. So lesson number 7, moving on. The community supporting each other, really, the community heals related to that. And this goes for parents as well. Parents, again, blind leading the blind, right? So feeling incredibly isolating and misunderstood and invalidated by people around the family who cares for them, but they have no clue what they're talking about, right? And so really, this is the learning lesson I have for you. The community heals as long as the community is the right community for both teens and the parents. Absolutely, I've seen that time and time again. And lesson number 8, With teen FND, they can cure it for real, okay? As long as they take the right approach. And what is the right approach? Well, there are a few steps to it. One is to work with a teen FND specialist, as I mentioned, right? Because FND specialists who only works with individuals in the 50s and 60s and 70s, not the same thing as like, what are you going to do with school? What are you going to do with the parents? That kind of thing, right? So again, work with the teen FND specialist and start ASAP. You got to start ASAP. You've already, I don't want to say wasted, but you've already spent and missed out however long so far. So why wait? Okay, the longer you wait, the less likely your child is going to get better. So your nightmare can come true. I don't want that to happen to you. And with the right approach, number 3 is the parents need to be part of the team. No more being outcast or dropping off your child to a stranger who says, oh yeah, I can help your child, kind of thing. As long as you're living with your team, you have to be part of the team. There's absolutely non-negotiable, because the thing that you're doing is going to make a huge difference in your teen's recovery. So why not? This is where I mean by you have to be good parents, but also effective parents. All right. And number 4, the right approach. The focus is on a long-term solution, not a temporary band-aid relief. Again, this assistive device coming back, or you as parents coddling, and then like stroking head and then hair while your child is having an episode, or, put in an ice pack and, do this and do that, and almost like a white glove service, at a 5-star hotel, kind of thing. Which again, I know you're coming from a place of good heart and love and care and concern. Get that. Did you know that those are all a temporary band-aid relief? It does not move the needle towards a resolution of FND, because FND teens absolutely need to feel like they're in control. That's the number one thing that's going to move the huge needle towards a recovery. The internal locus of control, technically, is what it's called. It's a fancy name for teens having a sense of agency, like a sense of control and empowered. Without that, it's going to be really, really difficult for them to get better. So those are the right approach. And lesson number 9, teen FND healing journey will feel and sound and smell like very counterintuitive things. For example, like the temporary band-aid relief, it's going to be just temporarily. It's not going to be a chronic or long-term solution, that kind of thing. So teens and parents both need to undo what's not working and then retrain the brain and the body. It goes both ways, right? So for example, other than what I have said so far, when it comes to FND recovery, in-person telehealth, and I'm talking specifically teens, and I'm not talking about 5-year-olds old or 70-year-old, individuals, okay? I'm talking specifically about teen FND. In-person telehealth, it doesn't matter in terms of the outcome. From my experience, it doesn't matter. Maybe it is different for other people, but the way I work with the teens, they get better no matter what. And parents using their own intuition, not gonna work. Again, right? A lot of parents are saying like, ooh, we don't do that kind of thing. For example, like, oh yeah, we don't ask questions. Oh, it's gonna be really hard, so it just goes against the grain of being intuitive. So even though things sound counterintuitive, they trust themselves and focus on being effective and focus on the results, right? This is again counterintuitive, but focusing on the result. It's kind of common sense, but I want to say it. Not the cost, the insurance, or old mindset. Oh, it has to be entertaining like playing a video game for my child, right? Or I have to force my child to get things the way I want. I have to make my child to do this thing, that kind of thing. Those are all old mindset. And this is why the parents need to be part of the team to get educated about what actually works. Look, I have been in a hospital setting for many, 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 many years. And I used to think that if you don't take insurance, I'm just like dismissing like completely. And I don't know about you, but I also grew up with a competitive dancer with chronic pain and chronic medical conditions. So I have been in that system for quite some time. And so I used to look at this list based on the insurance coverage or call these doctors. And if they don't take my insurance, I'm like, nope. Because I am already paying for my insurance and then I should be able to be covered for the service I need. Guess what? It took me I don't even know, probably over 20 years for me to get better. So at the end of the day, it was costing me. I paid a big, big price of not focusing on what is the priority. And what is the priority? I don't know about you, but for me, is health. If I'm not healthy, my day is gone. If I'm not healthy, I cannot be effective wife, mother, individual, therapist, psychologist, part of the team, all of that. So at some point, I have to roll up my sleeves and really make up my mind and decide health is my priority. Without health, there is absolutely nothing else that is more important. And then same for my child, like my child's health is the number one thing. So even if I have to cut back on other things, I make that as a priority. So again, this is like a mindset of I will make it happen, right? I will make this happen. So for those who are concerned about a cost, I get it. Just focus on your values and results. All right. And again, I'm not saying like you have to all think it like me, so I'm only working with families who also prioritize their health and their child's health. So that is really what I am hearing. And that is really what I'm talking about. And then those are the families who get better. Okay. So kind of like put it into context. It's like, what is the value, right? Like how much does it cost for you to see your child get better and like thrive in their lives, right? How valuable is it? So really that's the question. And to me, like how important is it for you as a parent to see your child just blossoming and thriving and living their life to full potential? As a parent, I don't want anything more than that, right? So again, that is where my value is coming from. And if you align with that value, great, awesome. And from your current environment, this is also important. So there are a lot of hospital-based programs. And again, I was one of those, places. It is set up amazing, and then here's the deal. Maybe your child comes out of the program completely healed and for the rest of their life. Great. Chances are though, when you go back home, you're right back to the square one because you're literally getting yourself back to that same environment that you have been in. And so sometimes going out of that environment to sort of like heal and then deal with whatever the issue, especially with the FND, might be helpful. But 100% of these hospital-based programs, they recommend you that you continue to see an FND specialist after you're done with the FND program. So what does that say? Most of the people do need ongoing care, right? And let's just say if your teen has been struggling in school, not academically, but like school as a stressor for having these symptoms. Taking her out of the school is easy. Putting her back into the school is not going to be the same, right, as taking her out, right? So you kind of have to teach your child how to address what to do and then how to deal with whatever the stressful situation would be while your child is in that stressful environment. Again, I am generalizing it because sometimes if whatever the environment your child is in is very hostile and dangerous, well, like why? Why would you do that, right? However, removing the stressful environment or situation is not necessarily the solution. And again, that's also I'm learning. And that's why Teen FND Academy online program works wonderfully because they're right in that environment where they are at, and they're also learning how to deal with those situations. So nothing really gets in the way, so then that is how these teens are developing the resilience. Same for the parents as well. So these are the 9 lessons I have learned so far, and leave me a comment below what you have resonated with any of these learning things that I am sharing with you because it's my own personal experience running in my private practice and also working in the online coaching program. Again, share this video with other people and friends who may benefit from these free resources. There's a lot of things down below. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video.